live tonight with Russ Casseday. It's Heather's Long Box, and Comcast is out, so we are using a hotspot. We have compensated and figured this out.
Hopefully.
How are you doing tonight? You had some problems too, huh?
Good. It's been windy the last couple of days. Have you guys had wind up there? I know you're in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're in Ohio, and it's been crazy windy the last few days. 25, 30 mile an hour winds. So yeah, we had an issue with the internet today, just trees being blown over and everything. So
I hit 25 near my house. I'm in southeast Michigan, and I'm actually near Ohio.
Yeah.
Lola is a little bit more north of me, and you said 50 miles? 50 mile winds.
Jeez. Yeah, it's crazy to.
Yeah.
Mine's on its side, and I'm like, I'm not picking it up because it's going to blow over again. I'm going to go pick up the trash can 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. We have Christmas decorations out in the yard.
Well, I've been using a T-Mobile box for Wi-Fi at the house. Lola says she still has internet at her house, but here at the studio, we were out, and you guys have been on and off the phone all day long with them.
We can't get there. They keep saying the number's invalid. It hangs up on us. Yeah. Well, I've tried 4 different numbers to try to get a hold of them.
Oh, wow. So for you, Russ, did it just automatically come on after a while or what?
Well, I called the cable company because I thought it was my cable modem or something, and I kept resetting it and it wouldn't come up. So I finally used my phone as a hotspot, got on my computer, and started chatting with support online on the web. And and they were like, "Nope, there's an outage in your area." And I'm like, "Great." I work from home. So I'm telling my lead, I'm like, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't have internet." So
it's convenient when you want a day off, Russ.
Yeah, exactly.
They took chat support down.
There's a
you can't chat anymore either.
Oh wow. Yeah, there's a website called Down Detector.
Yep.
And yeah, if you go to Down Detector, and you can usually search the company, and it'll tell you like where the outages are for that company all over the United States. So kind of handy.
Sleeping next to me right now. So if you see like clouds or fog or anything, I'm honestly not magical. It's a little vaping next to me. The asthmatic.
The studio is also a dance disco center.
Well, who knows what they do after hours?
No one will know.
So I looked today and I could not find my Charms 1 book. I'm so disorganized. Steve in my universe said, you've invested in those books. If you don't store them right, you're messing with your investments. And so I got my butt spanked figuratively over that one. So I couldn't find because I know I still have it in a Gemini all nice and neat and everything because it came with, some extras.
Yeah. So I, lucky for you, I just happen to have some over here. Actually, I have so we did our Charms 1 back in March, April of this year. So one of the covers that we did was this, I don't want to get glare on it, Shannon Mayer cover. And this came about because I had met Becky online. She was asking for help with Procreate. And I reached out and I said, "Hey, I've only been doing it for a couple of years, but maybe I can show you something that speeds up your process or something, right? Just trying to help, right?" Mm-hmm. And as I'm explaining things, she was like, "Yeah, Shannon says that." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, we'll go on talk about something else. She's like, "Yeah, Shannon says that too." And I'm like, "Hey, who's Shannon? Who you talking about?" And she's like, "Shannon Mayer." And I'm like, "Oh, Shannon Mayer?" She's like, "Well, yeah, he's my boyfriend." And I'm like, "What? What are you asking me? Why are you asking for help?" And, he uses Photoshop and stuff, so he doesn't use Procreate on an iPad. It's, and apps are very different depending on what you're using, using to color or draw or whatever digitally. There's so many differences, little nuances and stuff. And not everything's the same. So when Sarah and I decided to do our book, I reached out to Becky and I said, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, Tom, I'm like, I may not know. I want to get Shannon to do a cover, but I don't know if I can afford like full price. I'm like, is there any way I can get like a friends and family discount kind of thing? And Becky's like, oh, you've helped me out so much. We're gonna help you out. So I'm like, I greatly
That was
appreciate that.
that was awesome.
And
Yes.
so I'm like, so I wanted to do something for them as well. And I'm like, well, have you guys ever done a cover together? And she's like, no, Shannon wouldn't let me touch his art. And I'm like, I get that. I get that. But maybe we can do something else. And I said, what if I have you do a border and we print the border on acetate so that basically Shannon's cover is underneath and Becky's cover is the border for on the acetate. So, and you can see this one's actually signed by Shannon and Becky.
So
that was my
her stuff's not touching his stuff, but it is touching his stuff.
Yeah. it's over top. Yeah, but it's that was just something out of the box kind of thinking to get them both to be able to be present on the same cover. So
no, that was really cool idea and thinking outside of the box, to a certain degree as well. There are some couples who work really well together, like Steph Wilson.
Yeah, Steph and Carrie Ann, yep.
And I don't know exactly what Carrie does. I know she invoiced me.
Yeah, so Carrie colors his stuff. So it's kind of funny when Steph and I both kind of got into the industry at the same time, early 2019. I started coloring. I got an iPad for work, and I started coloring in like the summer of 2018. I met a guy on Facebook, and I love Transformers, and I started coloring Transformer art. And so then someone was like, "Hey, have you ever tried coloring sequential pages?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "That'd be cool. I'd try it." So I started coloring a book called Lucky Shot. Just a really tiny, small indie publisher, John Arroyo. And when I got to the end of that book, Murat Michaels had messaged me and said, "Hey, I have a book, Naughty and Nice, that I need an interior colorist for. I think you'd fit in well with the team and stuff." And he basically said, he's like, "Look, if you don't do it, then the book's gonna go black and white." So I'm like, "Well, I'll try it and see how it goes." And I did quite a few books, Naughty and Nice books, and Bad Girl Apocalypse, and some other books as well. But
how many Naughty and Nice did you?
Well, I did Naughty and Nice 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and I helped Becky. Becky and I both did 12. So, and that was the last one.
And were all of those? Who was the interior artist in all of those?
So it went back and forth between Ron Williams and Jerry Rasco.
Okay.
They both do interiors on different books from Murat. As a matter of fact, the last one that we just finished, which is the Halloween / Christmas book for this year, Jerry did the first 10 pages and Ron did the last 10 pages, 11 through 20.
Okay. So like a combo effort for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, one was a Halloween story and the other one was more of a Christmas story. And they were just both put together, 2 chapters, both put together for a 20-page book. And Rihanna, I think it's Rihanna Shepherd actually colored that book. So I've become more of a middleman back, in the background behind the curtain kind of thing. I lettered the book and then edited it, that kind of thing. I'm a grammar guy now.
The grammar guy, like a grammar Nazi.
Yeah, kind of.
You were on Comic Fanzine, and I jumped on there, and you were talking about. And I know you are very much a behind the scenes kind of guy, so I was calling you the wizard,
Yeah. I mean, Phil Russert used to call me his Gandalf, so it's very, very fitting. But yeah, I've kind of morphed from doing the coloring. If you haven't colored anything, sequential pages, every panel like a cover. You know what I'm saying? It's you're trying to color each separate panel, but they all have to flow. And it takes a while. So I mean, you can spend 2, 3, 4 hours on each page. So by the time you get through a 24 page book, you've got a lot of time in that. And I was spending a lot of time coloring, and my wife was getting really annoyed. And then Mark May asked me to figure out how to do a Kickstarter for him. So I figured that out, and I did a couple Kickstarters for his card game that he had. And then we did the comics, or some of the Hellbringers comics. And then Marat was like, "Hey, you can do my Kickstarters as well." And I'm like, "Okay." And then it just kind of, once I realized I could, start making money doing the Kickstarters for a lot less time commitment, it was basically just faster turnover. So that's
Well,
when I started.
I'm gonna back up a second, because you told me how many sequential art projects
Right.
or pages you've done and
Right,
covered.
I've done over 450 sequential pages, and if you figure each book is about 20 pages, you're looking at about 20 different books or so over 3 years that I've
Busy guy.
colored. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, last year I did, I don't know, like 5 or 6 book. I colored like 5 or 6 books, but I also did like 20 Kickstarters. Whereas this year, I think I've only colored 1 or 2 books, but I've done like 40 Kickstarters. So it's definitely transitioning more to that role.
And you
Uh,
did 80 covers as well, right?
over the last 4 years, I've done about 80 or more covers. But there's a lot of DUPU covers in there, a lot of covers for Mark May. Geez, I've colored covers for Phil Russert, Izzy's Comics, just all kinds of indie books.
So
Colored
the,
pinups. I've colored pinup for Tom, for BDI. Just
yeah, well, Tom says, "Hey, I
yeah,
know." And
yeah,
Tom, we know you. Congratulations. Your Kickstarter just ended today, and it already sucked up my money.
yeah. Tom stuff is good. I get to see Tom. Sometimes I get to see. Well, I think I get to see him about once a year. He comes out to the Akron, Ohio comic show with CB Zane, which is really cool to get to see them.
Yeah, I really wish I would have gone to Gem City this year to see everybody. I missed
Yeah,
I
Gem
missed
City. It
out.
was a little slow this year. Dan Mendoza and Nightmare and Bill McKay came down. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was a decent show overall, but it was a little slower than the previous one that I had gone to.
Okay. Well, I know in the past it's been good. It's a 3-hour drive for me, so I
Yeah.
wasn't up to it this year.
Yeah, you go. I mean, you go to. Do you go to the shows up in Michigan, like Monroe Pop Fest and stuff like that?
Monroe Pop Fest is my favorite. Plug for Gary and Don. It's that one's the closest to my home. I do go to Motor City. I try to do the Grand Rapids every couple of years. I've been to one in Traverse City. Cherry Capital. I always call it the wrong thing. I don't know why.
C4 or Cherry Capital Comic Con.
Yeah, so I went. Was it last year I went? I'm asking Lola where I've been.
Yeah, I mean, I need to get up in that area. I mean, as an indie creator, it's important to branch out to other shows, right? If you're only doing shows, yeah, if you're only doing shows in your local area, everybody gets used to seeing your stuff, right? So you have to branch out and go to other states around you as well. It's very important.
Because after a couple of years or in a row of like the same cons in your area, you've kind of saturated that audience,
Yeah,
and you do need to branch out.
yeah, and
And
that's one of the big things that everybody is concerned with. Everybody that does crowdfunding, right? The big thing is that when you look at your backer list, you have a lot of other creators that are backing your project. So the big question that everybody's trying to solve, the $1 million question is, how do we reach regular comic folks, comic buyers, the ones that are going into the local comic shops? How do we get our product in front of them? because they're not coming to Kickstarter. So how do we get them to either, how do we get them to come to crowdfunding to back the books, or how do we get our books in a local shop to be in front of those comic buyers? So that's the hardest struggle right now for
And
everybody.
I have seen with Kickstarter that a lot of, like, when I go on there and I go to pledge, I see a lot of creators supporting other creators, which is really good. It is a close-knit community and everything like
Right.
that, and you really do feel the love. And most other creators are willing to, give advice and help out when and where they can.
Yep.
But I agree with you, like you were discussing last night when I, hopped onto that other podcast show, is that you have to draw in your audiences from other areas. And so
Right.
now what a lot of people are doing, and we talked about this, is varied covers, so that you're plugging into not only, I love this artist, I would die if they did a cover for me, because you love their artwork, but you're also tapping into their social media and their followers and
Right.
hoping that they're going to fall in love with the story that you're trying to tell and become
Right.
your follower.
Yep. Yeah, it's I mean, it's two-part really. I mean, as a crowdfunding person, you have to hit two audiences. You have to hit the collectors, which roughly, 60-70% of the people that are backing crowdfunding projects are collectors. They're buying multiple covers. Your average reader is either going to buy the PDF, or they're going to buy the cheapest physical copy because they prefer to read physical books.
Well,
But they won't. Yeah.
This year you had so many cute covers for Charms too. I couldn't make up my mind. So I think I did, or I'm kind of cross, but I think I'm going to do buy two covers, because that cereal one is just so adorable.
My wife was so my wife writes charms. So I had this idea years ago, and it's interesting. It's so funny, like when ideas come to you. I was just driving somewhere, and I just had the image of a girl throwing charms, like animal charms, and the animals coming to life. And it was just like, okay, all right, now I have this idea. So the first thing I did is was working with a guy who lives in the Philippines on doing fan art, right? So I commission artists to draw for me. I color the image and I turn it into 11 by 17 art prints. And that's my bread and butter at shows. I sell art prints. Because when you go to a comic book show, not everybody likes comics. You have more people that aren't interested in art than they are. Hey, Tyler, they're more interested in just art, art prints and stuff, than they are comic books. So, but anyways, so I reached out to my buddy Francis, and I'm like, hey, I had this idea. Can you draw it for me? At the time it was, a 12 to 13-year-old girl. Basically after my daughter at the time had blonde. She had dyed her hair blonde with blue at the end. And I'm like, all right, so, I got my daughter here, and she's got these 4 animals, and the 4 animals are a bear, a wolf, a cheetah, and a hawk. These are going to be her charm animals. And so we did the concept art, and then James Patrick lives pretty close to me, and he is a writer. He's written for Harley Quinn, Arrow, Batman. Recently, he's written Astronaut Down and Kaiju Score for Aftershock Comics. And I asked him to be my editor, and I basically, he does edit our books, but I asked him, at the beginning, when I'm like, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? And he's like, if you can come up with a good story, I don't think it's been done. He's like, I think you could have something. So COVID hit, and it went to the back burner. And then, near the end of the pandemic, so 2020, early last year, I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, we were coming back from a con in Kentucky or something like that. And I'm like, hey, I have this idea for a comic. I want to know your thoughts. And she reads a lot, as you heard last night, she reads a lot.
Yeah.
She has her favorite authors that she subscribes to on Amazon. She prepays for books and gets them 6 months later. It's very similar to, the comic world on crowdfunding. But anyway, so she's like, oh, you could do this and this and this. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Why don't you just write it? And she's like, no, that's not a thing. I don't think so. And I'm like, why not? So basically, by a couple hour drive home, I had convinced her to write the book. but it's different. I knew that there was going to be some hurdles along the way because she reads novels, and obviously comics are not novels.
No, they're more like movie scripts. And
Right,
but I think
exactly.
it's so cool that you encouraged her to write, and then there was something else that you were talking about doing, and she's like, it has to happen so that you guys, she's not saying, oh no, Russ, that's too expensive.
Yeah,
She's encouraging you.
yeah. Well, I don't think she knew how. I had ideas of how much it was going to cost, but I don't think she had any clue. But well, so once we got into it, and she wrote the script. Her first script for issue 1 was 1 page, and it was page 1. This happens. Page 2. This happens. Page 3. Right, a very basic script. So when I was looking for an artist, and I had known of Nate Lovett, who is in Columbus, Ohio, and I thought that his art style, he's done work for Nickelodeon and some other these inked Spider-Man and all kinds of stuff, but I knew because he's done his own books and stuff that he would be able to take a very generic basic script and turn it into a 24-page book. And when that happened, we went through that process, right? And then when I started lettering it, Sarah, when she was looking at it, because I had to give her ideas on where word bubbles had to go and everything else. So I basically put in generic text in word bubbles just where I thought that they made sense. And then she came in behind me and basically had to change everything to how she had in her head that the characters would talk. So there was a lot of back and forth bickering there, and it was mainly over. I'm like, you can't have that much text in a comic. You're taking up the whole panel and covering all the art. So so it was really back and forth. And then she was like, well, hold on a second. This character has to be saying the first thing, but they're on the right side of the page. So it was a lot of, trying to make the word balloons fit properly. But it helped her to go through that process so that when it came to write the script for book 2, she knew exactly what to do. So we actually had a multiple page script with page 1, panel 2, panel 3, page 2, panel 1, panel 2. And she knew she wanted this character on the left side because they were going to say something first. It gave Nate a lot more direction, right? And
And then she probably said, leave me alone, Russ. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's funny because she figured out some things in the lettering program that I didn't know. Because we use a lettering program called Comic Life 3. And if there are any writers that, nice, Larry was talking about his pigtails.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's interesting because you want everything to fit properly. But yeah, it definitely helped her. I use Comic Life 3. I think it's an awesome application for a writer, even before it goes to letter, because you can put the word. It's literally drag and drop the balloons and type, and I think that really helps to know how much room you have for words. What I can put in this balloon in this space, and then you can send that rough.
You've got a panel, this
Yeah.
big, and I've seen where people have made, not 8 panels or not 6 panels on a page. They've made the panel bigger.
Yeah.
And almost the length of the panel is the whole dialogue. And it's like, this is not Austin Powers with your inner monologue outside here.
You really have to let the art speak for what you're trying to say. Words are great, but if the art can tell the story, that helps so much more. You want them to work together, the words and the art, to tell the story. But anyway, so Sarah was able to do a much better. She was much more comfortable with the second book, giving Nate direction on things. And we like to put Easter eggs in. We're in Marietta, Ohio, which is right across the Ohio River from Parkersburg. So I have two comic book stores that I go to. So in Charms 1, we included Asylum Comics, which is our local comic store here in Marietta.
Sweet.
And we did a local band. We had a poster in a window for a local band. And then in book 2, we did the Parkersburg Art Center. And what else is there's a Multiverse Comics, which is my other comic shop that I go to, and we put a little Easter egg to Sarah's work. She works at a fully qualified. She's a therapist, and she works for a fully qualified healthcare center, and it's Copeland Health, and we actually call it. They get a lot of mail, and it says Copeland. It's the people mix it up all the time, so we actually put Copeland Health as a kind of a joke.
That's okay. I keep calling the local Circle K Special K, and the ladies inside laugh, and they said, "Yeah, that's about right."
Yeah, but it's fun. It's if you're gonna do a comic, it's fun to put little Easter eggs like that in there. People find it amusing, especially locals.
I sent Tyler the StreamYard link in case he wanted to join for a few minutes to talk about your joint venture. He said he couldn't right now. I told him that we were going to go to about 6:30 because, I'm aware that you have another show to do. So we'll see if he's to talk about that. So I'll hold off on asking you about that.
Yeah, no, we get to I get to work with a lot of different artists. It's awesome. Doing coloring covers and stuff.
You know what though? I didn't know that you were a colorist. You and I have talked, and I'm hiring you to do my page set, for my book for when it goes to the printer. And we already talked about the printer and stuff like that. And you and I, oh my God, I think we talked till like 3:00 in the morning. You just were very helpful, and made me feel comfortable that I was on the right path. But I know that you're a behind the scenes type of guy, but you held out. I didn't know you were a colorist.
Yeah, I've actually turned down quite a few coloring gigs this year already, just because of time, the time commitment, and doing all the Kickstarters and everything. Because I help out Dan Mendoza with his Zombie Tramp, all of his Still Ill products. And then Marat, these guys do tons of campaigns, and I also, because I've helped. So basically, I've done Phil Russert, Alton Simpson, Dustin Burnell, Jim Noble, Dan, Marat, and then there's like a ton of folks that have just done like one or two campaigns over the last couple of years. So it's definitely building up as far as the campaigns that I'm doing and everything. But I think Dustin's moving to doing 2 comics a month in January.
Well, now you do Dan's. Do you do like Nightmare's got her own stuff too? Do you do?
Well, I kind of group them together in the same umbrella as Still Ill. So they'd like to do their own Kickstarter campaigns. They like doing the graphics and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dan said that there might be an opportunity if he gets bored with it that he'll let me do them down the road. But right now I do the surveys at the end through BackerKit. So basically we export everything from Kickstarter over to BackerKit, and build the add-on store and do all the surveys and everything. And they like to offer signed variants and everything. So it's a little more complicated of a survey.
Just their stuff alone, because they've had 2 Zombie Tramp Kickstarters this year.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then there were the other books.
Yep.
I mean, they're.
Yeah, I think I've done like 5 or 6 backer kits just for them alone.
Yeah.
And then I've done like 3 or 4 for Marat this year. So I don't do their Kickstarters, but since I do their backer kits, I count that as one project, because doing a backer kit survey is just as time intensive, if not more, than doing the Kickstarter.
Lola's over here nodding her head yes, because Lola you did Kickstarter and you did Indiegogo at the same time.
Yeah.
So how long does the survey process? Because okay, so Tom does different with his campaigns. They're very short campaigns, but traditionally, a creator will do a 30-day fundraiser.
Yep.
So after that 30 days is when you do the backer kit and the surveys. What's
Correct.
the time process for that?
So it's usually so Kickstarter's money they don't pay until 2 weeks after. So
Okay.
usually what we like to do is hopefully within 3 weeks after the Kickstarter ends, you're doing your backer kit. Um, because backer kit takes a chunk of money up front to do. And I don't it's a percentage, and I don't know if it's a percentage of what you made in Kickstarter, but they take a percentage up front, okay, that you have to pay to even start the backer kit. And then they get a percentage of each item that you sell through the backer kit store. And this is why I tell people,
I didn't know that.
if you're not making 25K or more on Kickstarter, and you don't think that you're going to make another 5K roughly, then don't do the backer kit, because it's you're going to end up losing more money than it's worth. And that's kind of why I like Crowdfunder to begin with, because Crowdfunder, it collects the shipping information and everything up front.
Mhm.
There's no need to do a survey. You have all the information you need to ship books. So, and then but Caesar brought up a good point. He's like, what about the people that missed out on the Kickstarter? How do you get them? Well, with Crowdfunder, you can turn it into a store, and people can purchase that stuff afterwards. Similar to Indiegogo, how Indiegogo does their in demand.
So traditionally, like with Kickstarter, because I'm most familiar with it, you're ordering the books based on your pledges, and of course, you're always going to have a cushion. So when you say turn it into a store, how do you meet that on-demand shopping or request?
Yeah, so basically, it's the same thing as backer kit, right? So when we move the campaign over to backer kit, and you set up a backer kit store, it's the button says pre-order, so it's still in a pre-order phase. And then once that you basically let everybody know that backs, if they miss out on the Kickstarter and they come in and back 100% through the backer kit store, then you're letting them know, hey, these books are going to ship, say February of 2023. So they know, even though they missed out on the campaign, they're still pre-ordering the item.
Okay.
So it's the same. It's the same way.
And because we're doing this with the hotspot and everything, are we able to we're not able to put up his Kickstarter, are we?
I don't have.
If I can do it if you, when I hit share screen here.
Yeah, show off, Russ. Show everybody that adorable cover I love.
Yeah, it'd be better if he did it.
He did last night with Caesar's show because Dell was still recovering. Dell wasn't on the show. So Russ pulled up his own Kickstarter because the guys were like, well, I don't know how to do that, because normally Dell handles all of that.
I know how to do it. It's just we're running off a hotspot. So
yeah, the hotspot would probably hurt you a little bit.
I don't know. I don't pay the bill, to be honest. My ex-husband does. Yeah, because we're all on the same plan. It was just cheaper to, with the girls' phones and everything like that. And I didn't want to lose the Netflix account.
So,
I'll hear about it next month, probably.
Yeah, so I'm running on Crowdfunder, and it's interesting. I'll tell you a couple of the interesting things that I learned since I started doing this over here. So this amount raised, it's not comparable to Kickstarter, because Kickstarter, the amount raised includes shipping and their fees. This is after the shipping and fees are removed.
Okay.
So one of the things that I recommended to them is to put in parentheses underneath this the actual, the full amount with shipping and fees included. I told them, I'm like, when creators come over here to look to see how much creators are making on Crowdfunder, they're seeing lower numbers, because in their head, Kickstarter is the default, and Kickstarter includes shipping and all that fluff, right? So these numbers are lower. So like right now, technically, I'm over like $1,500 or $1,600 in Kickstarter money, but you don't see that. So it looks like I've earned less than what I would have earned on Kickstarter. It's a little funky.
But for people who are comparing, who are thinking about jumping on Crowdfunder, that's really important to know.
It is. It is. And I mean, the other big things that about crowdfunder is I went with an all or nothing model, or keep it all underneath my name here. I went with a keep it all model. So basically, as soon as you back, your card is charged. So when you make your pledge, your card is charged at that time.
Yeah.
You're not being charged 30 days later if I hit my goal. You're charged right away. It gets your shipping address and everything is done.
So
And not
Lola's
only that,
that's like Indiegogo, and you were saying how crowdfunder is kind of like a little bit of both crowdfunder and Kickstarter, right?
yeah, the layout. If you look at the layout, how they have the images on the actual tiers itself as well, that's kind of cool. You're not really kind of trying to go back and forth between the story and the right side to make sure that you've got the right cover, because you have the cover image there. So, but real quick, I started this off with a couple quotes from previous backers of book one, just so that people know that there were people that enjoyed reading the story. That helps. I think that helps. When people are happy and they give you positive feedback. Book one was 25 pages, and this book I think is going to be either 30 or 31. Sarah couldn't stop writing. I was like, my wallet was like, no.
But Russ, it's got to be in there. This is a pivotal moment. This is a point. Yeah. It's got to be in there, Russ.
Yeah. I mean, it really came down to she had some stuff she laid out, and then we shipped it over to James, and James was like, hey, you might want to explain this stuff a little better. Talk about this a little bit more, and so we added some pages and tweaked some stuff. So just made sense to do it that way. And then something else that we're doing in book two is we're adding animated characters. So basically,
this is really cool.
What's going to happen is we're going to have QR codes on different pages of the interiors. And when a reader scans that with their mobile device, they'll be taken to a YouTube video that will basically be one of the animated characters explaining something on the page. And it could be something like, this is our main character, Caitlin. Maybe she gets in an argument with her mom, and then when they scan the QR code, it's Caitlin saying, "Can you believe Mom? I don't understand what she's even thinking." That kind of thing. Just that kind of stuff.
A little interactive for your younger readers.
Yeah. So this is my daughter, actually. I hope you guys can hear this.
My name is Caitlin, and some of you may know me from the comic book Charms. I would describe Charms as a mix between Harry Potter and Pokemon. Lots of magic and animals. If you missed out on issue 1, don't worry. When we launch our campaign for issue 2, you'll be able to catch up. I really think that if you support our comic, you'll be happy with the story and art, as well as the awesome covers. I'll swing by and visit again soon.
So that was my daughter. She's going to be 16 in January, and she's basically who the main character was designed with her in mind, kind of thing. And
Lola, about what your daughter does and how it interacts. Because
so if anybody has an iPhone, okay, and I don't have an Android phone, so I don't know if they have something similar, but iPhones have animojis, and basically like they have like a unicorn and a dragon, a panda bear, all these different animojis. And when you go to message somebody, you can send them an emoji, and basically the webcam watches your face and it makes your facial movements. So I had a guy that did one of our covers. He's an animator, and he did our video, and then I had him build these puppets using Adobe Character Animator. And basically the puppet, once you have the puppet, you can use your webcam, and basically it watches your face, right? So as my daughter's reading, it's mimicking her face as she's talking. So, and then you can record it so that you can use that video. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to use the QR codes and have her read certain things, and we'll post the videos on YouTube and then put the QR code on the pages.
Cool.
Did you have to up her allowance to get her to do that?
No, she's pretty stoked to do it anyways. It's something. It's kind of bragging rights to her friends, and actually, she's got friends that want to do it. So one of her friends will get to be her. So the book is about three teens, Caitlin, Joe, and Brady, and that's where the Harry Potter thing comes in. In Harry Potter, it was Ron and Harry, and then Hermione, but this is Caitlin and Joe and Brady, so it's just one boy. But basically, they think they're just buddies. They think they're just friends, but they're gonna find out that they're part of an ancient tribe, and each one of them is gonna have a special ability. And if anybody's played, any kind of multiplayer game or Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, we're gonna have three classes. So Caitlin is going to be the charm bearer. She's going to be the one that wears the charms and can bring the animals to life. And then the other two are going to have abilities too. And one is a forger and one is a magic wielder. And so basically you have the charm bearer, the magic wielder, and the forger. And you're going to find out more about those classes in this second issue, and how they interact with each other. And so it's going to be interesting. They're all going to find out. So it's really the reader is finding out as the characters are finding out what's going on, and it's gonna they're going to have a lot of questions, and it's gonna we want it to be interesting. But Sarah, being a therapist, she wanted to incorporate some of that into the book as well. So in the first issue they dealt with bullies. They're going to deal with depression, family loss, that kind of stuff as well. Because it is a teen plus book. So we want to make sure that we're incorporating, just the average teenage life, what teenagers are going through. So we've got some preview pages here. These are drawn by Nate Lovett. And Nate actually colored a couple of these pages. I wanted to get Nate's, his idea on colors and stuff.
You paid for colorists, Russ?
No. Yeah, for a couple pages, because so I colored book one, and then Sean Forney did the finishing colors. Because I'm a colorist, but I haven't been doing it for more than 4 years. So I know I have limitations, right? So I want to make sure that we put out the best product possible. So I had Nate color a couple of these pages here. That way I could use them as a coloring guide for myself. We all have to know our limitations. And then I do the lettering in Comic Life 3. It's a $60 app. It's easy to use.
And I have to say, people, that when you're a creator and you're making something, you're paying your artists up front.
Yeah.
Okay, you're making sure that your artists are paid. It's not like Russ was like playing euchre or something around the table. I don't know if Ohio people play euchre, Russ.
Oh, sure they do.
But like you're not sitting there playing cards saying, "Hey Nate, will you do this for me?" It's not like you're hitting your buddies up for free work. You're making sure that you're paying them up front because you don't want to fuck over that relationship. You know what I mean? And plus also the comic book industry is word of mouth, reputation. It's very, even though we're spread out, internationally or whatever, it's a small community and word does get around.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're paying your artist, especially if you want them to come back for another book or cover or anything. And you definitely don't want word of mouth getting out that you don't pay people. It just does not go over well with the community. It's a large, small community. Everybody knows everybody. So we wanted to make sure that the people that didn't get Charms 1 were able to get Charms 1 on this campaign. So basically I picked 6 of the popular covers from the first campaign and we offered them as a catch-up tier.
That's always good. That's always good. Yeah, Lola's over here freezing. Where even last week in the studio was really cold. There's no heat in the actual studio room, so they try to get here early and open up the doors so that there's heat that gets in. But then when we're recording, we shut the door, and I'm over here. I'm hot. I'm like ready to peel my sweater off I'll just throw it over Lola's shoulders over here.
So the first cover is by the interior artist Nate Lovett. He always comes up with some great ideas.
Was that a Lucky Charm box?
Yes. There's the cover. I it's so cute. I love that. Isn't that adorable?
That is adorable.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is Drax Gal. Drax is he's on the Still Ill team with Nightmare and Dan. He does a lot of covers for Zombie Tramp. He does the interior art for some of Nightmare's books, and I love his art style. It's very anime, very cute.
And it's going to
And
appeal to younger people. Like my daughters are just totally into the anime and are
Yeah.
discussing it. And I would
Yep.
love
So I asked him, I'm like, hey, I have to do a Lucky Charms cereal homage.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Yeah. So basically he did the drawing. So the cereal bowl and the marshmallows and her, I think he put the background in with the polka dots. But everything, all the text and stuff, all the squares, the top, I made it look like the cereal box.
A lot of detail really went into that. If you ever did like a pledge level where you could get the hat, I want the hat.
Yeah, that's it. He did a good job. When I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. My wife was just like, she doesn't get art. She's only cares about story. So she was just kind of like, what's with the cereal? She's like, there's no cereal in the book. And I'm like, you don't understand. I have to get the collectors, the people that like the cutesy covers and stuff. So that's where that came from. And then Nick Torres did this cover. It's a cartoony. It reminds me of Timmy Turner and the Fairly Odd Parents with the little fairies.
Wanda and Cosmos.
Yes, exactly. And then I've got
No, there's no S. I'm
Cosmo.
making it plural.
yeah, Cosmo. This is by Greg Williams. I've done a couple Kickstarters for Greg, so he was kind enough to do a cover for me. He's been around since the 90s. He's done work with Joe Linsner in the Cry for Dawn anthology. He did a story called Animal Mystic and another one called Chlor. So this one kind of hits on the sexy a little bit.
It's really pretty, and it reminds me a lot of Tom's covers for Wizard of Oz.
Yes, yeah.
I
told him like Indiana Jones with a big lion, and that's what we got.
a female Indiana Jones.
Yes, exactly. And that's a young version of Grandma. So, she's a charm bearer as well, and her main animal is a lion. Caitlin's main animal is a bear. So they all have a main animal, then they have 3 other animals that support that one. So we're gonna get into all kinds of cool stuff once we get into books 3 and 4 about what the animals can do, and it's very like Dungeons and Dragons, Pokemon kind of stuff. So.
And last night you were saying how many books? I forgot how many books your
4.
series. Okay.
This one is 4 it's like an origin story.
Okay.
Yeah. So book 1 mainly focused on Caitlin, the main character. And book 2 is mostly, it's got more about Joe and what her character is in the story. But Caitlin's birthday is in this book as well. So, she didn't go away. She's still very much in this book.
Uh-huh.
Book 3 is going to talk about Brady and what he means to the team and some of his life. But they'll all still be in that one as well. And then book 4 is going to tie everything together, with a nice little bow tie. So yeah, this is kind of the origin story. Then we'll see where we go after that kind of thing.
Hopefully Sarah has that that writing bug longer and comes up with something more.
I every time I get in the car and I drive, it's like all I do is think about this comic book, and I keep feeding her ideas. I'm like, I've got an idea for another series, and she's just like, oh my goodness. so yes, she does, very much so, but I keep throwing her for loops, and she's just like, why do you do this to me?
You're keeping her busy. You're keeping her on her toes.
So the guy that did our video and did those animated puppets, this is the cover that he did. Actually, this is a snippet from the video that he created. And I loved it so much that I'm like, that's got to be a cover. And he's never done a comic book cover. He's never really done anything for comic books at all before. He was a graphics designer at Staples, and he lives in Canada. And I'm like, dude, you're missing out. You can be doing this stuff. So, and then this is Nii
Okay, we have
Rufino's
somebody
cover.
say it's Heather. I don't know if it's Heather Antos or which
there's-
Heather it is. It's
Yes,
not
this
me.
is
That cute
Nii.
comics
Yeah, this is Nii. And then I had Drax. I hate Fairyland.
guy.
And I had Drax do an I Hate Fairyland cover.
I love that series.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Lola's
just
on
wanted-
board. She likes that cover. She also likes the series that you paid respect to here.
Yeah. And then Bellatrix, I met her at C2E2 in Chicago last year. And I asked her to do a watercolor cover.
Oh yes, you're talking about me. I'm glad you finally caught my show. Really cool. Thank you for joining us. I'm hoping to keep Russell on a little bit longer, but he does have another show later on.
And this is Heather Antos. So Heather is an editor for IDW. She edits Star Trek and Star Wars for IDW, and she's been an editor at Marvel. She's been all over the place. But this, apparently, I didn't know that this was. I asked her to do a cover because she has this Disney style, and I wanted like a Disney style cover. And so she did this cover for me, and then she told me that it was her first published cover, and I was kind of like, that's pretty sweet. I love being people's first publisher. So,
Well, and Heather's a Michigan girl.
Yeah.
oh, is she?
Elizabeth knew her when she worked at Green Brain.
Well, I remember her from Green Brain as well. Yeah, Varian remembers Heather Antos from Green Brain Comics in Dearborn, Michigan. And I met her, and then I went into Green Brain to talk with her. I wanted her to do some artwork for me. And she was leaving like in a week or two for the West Coast. So I missed out.
Yeah, so now she went to work for Marvel. She did a lot of editing for Marvel, like Gwenpool and stuff like that, and now she's over at IDW.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's definitely doing
Follow
well.
her on Twitter.
Yeah, I do. I follow her on Twitter too, so she posts quite frequently.
Her and Eric Palicki, they're always on the top of my feed in Twitter. And Nate Lovett, I don't know if I'm Facebook friends with him or not.
So Nate, so Rodney Fike and Nate and Sean Forney and Ian Churchill, they're all buddies, and they do their shows together. Like when they do Gem City, they sit together and everything. Ian Churchill is the artist that does the Tick. But he worked for a comic book store in Columbus, Ohio before he moved over to Boston, the Boston area.
So these guys have their little fight club going on.
Yeah, they have their own their own clique. But so I did a Nate package. Nate has his own comic called Punk Rock Ninja. So we did a little tier where you can get both of his Charms 1 cover, his Charms 2 cover, and his Punk Rock Ninja book. And Nate also just did if you remember the 80s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon with the little dungeon master and the unicorn.
The blonde kid?
There was a blonde archer. There was a
Look at me.
there was a magician, and but definitely it was an 80s cartoon called Dungeons and Dragons. Nate just did a golden book based on that.
So Ross, I'm a 70s kid. And I'm looking over at Lola, and she's like, "Don't look at me." She goes, "This before my time. I'm a 90s kid."
I was born in '89.
We got a little generation gap going on over here.
It was a popular cartoon. So, but yeah, if we look at I'll show you my other Kickstarters. So if we go down this list here, you can see all the Kickstarters that I've worked on. So like right now I have Dustin Burnell's Underland. So there's Bill McKay's Kickstarter.
Yes, I met Bill at Monroe Pop Fest,
Yes,
and his stuff is really
his
adorable.
line art is just phenomenal. Him and Sanju are great.
I asked Rodney to. Oh, Heather Antos is an art god. Well, I think she's a goddess myself, but yeah, I asked Rodney to come on the show, and he told me to talk with Tina. She handles all that.
Yeah.
And I asked another name that you mentioned. I follow them on Facebook and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, they're all good people. Actually, the show I'm doing later tonight is with Tina and Rodney.
oh,
They do
okay.
a Thursday night throwdown. They were doing a show where Rodney and Sean they would pick a topic and both draw something related to that topic, which was cool. And they would bring in guests, and then they would talk about their crowdfunding projects and everything while they draw. So
Kind of like
um,
their own drink and draw then.
yeah, exactly. But
That's
I
cool.
think Sean got a little bit busy, and I don't think he's been able to do it as much lately. But so Rodney and Tina are kind of doing their own thing, and they also do live streams when they back a bunch of Kickstarters, and when the stuff comes in, they do an opening to give everybody a shout out when they get their product. Their product.
And Steph is excellent about doing that too. I know that I've been sharing some of the artwork with you with the character developments and stuff like that, and a couple of
Yeah.
the covers. Did I show you what Steph did?
No, you didn't show me anything. Steph didn't know.
Okay.
No, and Steph's a good guy. And I started saying Steph and I, we kind of both showed up at the same time back in early 2019, and I saw some of Steph's art, and I was kind of like, I wonder if this would be cool to color. So I reached out to Steph and asked him if I could color some of his stuff, which she said sure. And then so I was coloring some of his stuff just to mess around and whatnot. And so he was giving me some advice then. That was very early on when I started coloring, and it was cool to know him. And then actually, I think one of the second book I did for Marat, Steph did a cover for, and it was like the Naughty Nice Halloween 2019. And he also did a Bad Girl Apocalypse cover. They were both right around the same time, so it was really cool that I colored the interiors and Steph did a cover for both of those books.
I want to say hi to Brian Silverbacks. He's also got a campaign going on.
Yes, Tampon Man.
And you were so right when you were talking about stuff. You're like, oh, you should follow him and stuff like that. Talking to him privately about my book, he's the type of person that just is really encouraging, very positive, and makes you feel good about yourself and about
Yeah.
your project. He was
Yep.
he was excited for me, and
Yes.
and then his excitement is contagious. So it really, like, at the time that I was talking to him, it really helped me to feel good about what I was doing.
I have to watch. Steph is awesome, and I want Steph to do a cover for me. I have to watch, and I talked about this with the guys last night on the show. I feel artists get pigeonholed into a certain area, and just like actors, right? Like Melissa McCarthy, she gets typecast into very specific roles, and when they try to make her do a serious movie, it doesn't go over as well. Everyone's like, "You're a comedian. What are you doing?" And I think artists get put in that same position where they know you, like Steph, as I draw these these hot covers kind of thing, and if I ask Steph to do a teen plus cover, um, am I going to really hit his audience? And that's one of the things I had to do with Ryan Kincaid, because Ryan Kincaid's known for the same thing, with the hot covers and everything, and I had to go outside the box. So I had Ryan do a Calvin and Hobbes homage for book one, and it did pretty well. And even when I take it to shows and stuff, people are like, "Oh, I love Calvin and Hobbes," and so they get that homage cover. So I have to think of something. I want stuff to do. I have two more covers or two more books to do next year, books 3 and 4. And I want stuff to do a cover, but I have to think of something that will appeal to his backers, right? Because you can have anybody do a cover for you, but if it doesn't sell, it's kind of like, okay, it was just money that I spent to help them out and to get them to do a cover, but it didn't help me sell any books. And that's ultimately the goal, is to use your artist to help sell books. So
In looking at what some of the things that Steph does, I give him a hard time about background, as like the running joke. But looking at like some of the other characters besides the main character that he draws, it reminds me of this stuff from the '90s, the Mad illustrations.
yeah, I can
He
see
does
that. Yeah.
that. Like I sent you something, and there's like a, my
I
main
did.
character.
I saw it. It's good. Yeah.
So the bartender has that look. I'm like, this feels familiar. And so
Yeah.
for like maybe my generation, certainly not Lola's generation, um,
Leave me alone, Hannah.
there's that familiarity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Steph is, him and Carrie Ann, everybody said, I haven't met them at a show yet. I can't wait to meet them. I'll probably give them the biggest bear hug I can, but because, like I said, we both came into the indie comic industry roughly the same time. So I've watched him explode, and and he's such a nice guy. Like, 'cause I love helping people, and I get that from Steph too. Steph loves helping people as well. So there's
You
definitely a
guys both
mutual
really
respect.
do. You've given such great advice that was just so on par. You really have. I mean,
It's one of those things where it doesn't. It does no good if somebody knows something and they hoard it to themselves. It does no good for anybody else. I mean, you get much more. You get a much more sense of accomplishment if you help others succeed, right? So if I can help, 5,000, because my wife is like, you're giving away all your secrets. And I'm like, yeah, I am. Yes, you are correct. I want everyone to succeed. I don't need it. I have an IT job that pays my bills. She works, we make good money. And the comics are just fun. Like I was telling the guys last night, I shared, we spent over $12,000 to do Charms 1. And with shipping and printing, and what I paid for interior art and color flats and just everythh, right? We spent over 12 grand. And this book, I'm under that. I didn't do as many covers, so I try to be a little bit smarter with things. But that's why I do the crowdfunding and stuff.
choose though one cover. You say you didn't do a lot of covers this time. You still make it hard.
But that's the goal, right? And because on the first campaign, 75 or 78% of the backers bought more than one book. That's the goal. If you make it hard to choose, then they'll just buy both. As long as you're not abusing the price range, right? And my covers I actually lowered my prices this time. So I went down, my first book is $12, and then every other book after that's $14. And because I know shipping is expensive, shipping is going up.
Well, it has gone up and it's going up
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
So and I don't, I'm looking to recoup some money, but whatever. I do the crowdfunding stuff and all that stuff to pay for this, to make our books. So it balances out to me. As long as I don't have to take money out of our savings account, then I'm good. If I can pay, if all these people that are paying me to do their Kickstarters and coloring and everything else, and all that money goes towards making this book, hey, that's the and then I can get a little bit back from the crowdfunding to help for that as well. That's perfect.
And I think anybody who decides to self-publish, anybody who, is going into the comics industry, they're telling the story. They have a story that they want to tell,
Right.
and they're going to make it happen. And a lot of people, it's just enjoying it. You're not going to make a lot. You're not going to become a millionaire this way. You know what I mean?
Comics are not a get rich scheme. They're a get poor scheme.
No, not at all. So
They're a get poor scheme.
people that are doing this, the indie people, are doing it for the love of comics.
Right.
And people like you who love comics and want to share your knowledge and help others.
It's all about leaving a legacy. And when I am no longer here, I want my kids to be able to say, look what my mom and dad did. I mean, because ultimately that's something that would be awesome for them to be able to say. But that's, last night, that's why I tell everybody, I give anybody advice on Kickstarters. I've learned a lot doing so many over the last 2 years. Last night I was saying, the most important thing right off the bat is your Kickstarter image, the thumbnail, right? If somebody goes to Kickstarter and they're scrolling down through 270 Kickstarter comic book Kickstarters, what's going to catch their eye? The first thing that catches their eye is the image. And if you have text all over that, which the title is right below the image. You don't have to have the title on the graphic and below it on, use the art. Have a sexy piece of art. And I say sexy as in, it doesn't
eye-appealing, eye-catching.
Yeah, eye-catching, right? Make people stop and say, okay, whoa, what's that? Because they're scrolling, and that's the first thing they're going to see. You could have the best Kickstarter layout, but if no one clicks on your campaign, okay, you sell nothing. So the first thing is to get that sexy image up there to get the people into the campaign. Now you have to have a campaign that is appealing, right? So you have to have good covers. You have to have an easy layout, so that when people are scrolling through the layout, they know exactly what cover in the story that you have a big image of, that when they go over to the right side and they're scrolling through the tiers, they know which one they're getting. So if you're using cover A, it's cover A over here, cover B. They have to match. Or if you're using specific titles, the Heather cover, okay, the Heather cover over here, you have to make sure that it's easy to follow. There are certain campaigns that I go to and I scroll down and I'm like, I'm lost. I have no idea what this image is. It's pretty. I like it, but I don't know which tier it is over here. So,
yeah. And that's what I noticed, because I just recently contributed to a couple of campaigns on Kickstarter, and I've looked yours over, and I do everything on my phone.
Yeah.
And
it's super hard on the phone.
It is hard on the phone. And and there was one campaign I ended up not contributing to because I couldn't make a decision. There were 20 fucking covers.
Oh,
and I'm trying to go back and forth, and I'm like, I'm looking for Anna Zoes, I'm looking for Dan Mendoza, and then you go to the words, and then you have to go back to the image, and it was kind of frustrating. Whereas Crowdfunder, the way it's set up, obviously
like a store, it's like an online store.
Yeah, it was a lot easy to things are a little bit different, but it was a lot easy to navigate.
Yeah,
through there.
Yeah, and each platform has their pros and cons, I think. Kickstarter has been around for a long time, so they have a lot of backers. They have a lot of people that are using the platform. But the problem is, I think that they've gotten complacent because you've got people that have been using the platform for 8 to 10, 12 years, and those people make a ton of money. You've got a ton of creators making 50, 60, 70, 80K or 400K, right? And so Kickstarter sees that and they're like, okay, well, we don't have to change anything because we've got these people making all this money. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Yeah, they're making that money, but they've been doing this for a long time. You still have 36% of indie creators that are failing. So 36% of the projects that have started on Kickstarter, comic related, have failed. And it's like you can do certain things to make it easier for these new creators. How many people have Netflix? Like everybody. So everybody's used to that Netflix layout. So the comic book page for Kickstarter would really do well if it had had a Netflix type of layout. So if it was genre based, right? So I had my horror books, my adult books, my comedies, my everything, right? And separated everything out by category like that. That would get more eyes on specific genres. So if I am a horror guy, I would click on a horrors and I would see all the scary books, and it's not. I don't think it's really that difficult to do. But basically, what happens now is I click on Discover under the comic book page, and I
Mhm.
see 270 projects, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot.
I
And
just saw when I went to fix my payment because my card got hacked. It showed me it said there were 936 comic projects. You know, and so
it's
like
9,000. It's 9,000 something.
when I see a link, you
Yeah.
know,
So here,
in
I'll
Facebook,
show. I'll show. I like showing this. I find this amusing because people don't understand this, and I wish that I don't know. I wish I could get every person ever that thinks about crowdfunding to see this. Can she? Can you guys? Well, can she put my screen up?
yep.
So when you go to Kickstarter, let me do this real quick. So when you go to Kickstarter and you click on the comics and illustration icon at the top, the first thing it shows you is 9,000. Okay, so you scroll down. This, first of all, this is kind of nuts. There's just like, why do you even have this page here? You have to come down here and click this Discover More button. And then you see 9,239 projects. And you're thinking, for a backer that is just now for the first time coming to Kickstarter, there is no way I'm going through 9,000 comic projects.
It's
Okay.
overwhelming. And if you're searching
Yes.
for a certain something,
Right. But here's the thing. That's like over the last few years. There have only been like 23,000 comic projects. So this is over like the last few years. You have to click on this More Filters button and click off the all projects and go to live projects.
right?
And then
Because
you
who wants
see,
to look at a project that's completed?
well, then you can go to the one that's done, successful, or all. Yeah. Or
I mean,
you
if
have to search.
you're checking out a creator and you want to see that, then you want to look at that. But like, so like when I was just on there, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to click on these creators and follow them.
Yeah.
Of course, once you contribute to like one of Dan's Kickstarters, then you're going to get an email every time he does a new one.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Correct. Yep. Which
and
is
every
handy.
time that there's an update. But
But as I sift through these, right, they're not categorized. They're basically, I'd have to go down 100, through 130 live projects just to see, there might be at the very bottom. Maybe there's a comedy book that that I like comedy books. I want to see all the comedy books, but I'm going to get pooped out after the first 20 books. I'm not going to get all the way to the bottom. So everybody below those 20, I'm pooped out. I'm not looking. So they're missing out. But if they were categorized so that I could just click on comedy, I would just see all the comedy books. You're going to get more eyes on those people that would be further down this list that might not be getting seen.
And when
So-
I don't have a link and I know that somebody is has a project out and I'm looking for that project, you can type in keywords, and sometimes those keywords don't bring up what you're looking for. And
Right.
if you type in a keyword, you're in a category comics and you type in a keyword, you're going to get other projects.
Yeah,
that
watch
have-
what I'm going to search Charms. Okay, so Charms 1 we ran on Kickstarter.
Mhm. Yep.
Where's Charms? None of these. I mean, it's. I get down how far before I actually get to our book, and none of these titles even have charms in them. Mine is at least in the title.
Right.
So I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. The search doesn't even work all properly half the time. So
right. But they're making money. They're not going to change
Right.
anything.
And I mean, yeah, and there are some other things that I tell folks as well. If you set your goal too high, say you're a first time, or even second time creator.
Yeah, don't make your goal $20,000.
If you set your goal too high, what's going to happen is we'll find one here, where it's like 12% funded. Okay, so that one's not too bad. That one's still got 30 days to go. But you get where you're at 20 or 30% funded and you've got a week to go. like that's over 1,000%.
No,
They have
you
their
want to
goal
reach,
too high,
you want to reach
basically.
the goal within a week, and then everything else after that is extra. And that's why people have the reward levels, is
Yeah,
the incentive to, bring your pledge up more, or, to share it with a friend or whatever, because then you benefit when those tiers are reached. I first contributed to a Kickstarter in 2016. By 2017, I had a writer friend who did his own campaign, and he was already known as a writer on Xenoscope, but he was doing his own thing. And at that time, they didn't have the shipping figured out for you on Kickstarter. So this guy didn't charge shipping in his
yeah,
price
yeah,
for anything. Guy had to take out a loan. He lost his shirt. He didn't, people are
yeah,
like, "Oh, but you made so much money." He was like, "No, not really."
yeah. It's people. Yeah, there's so many little things like that. Like this one here. This one is 59% funded with 9 days to go. When people see something like this, where it's just like halfway with just over a week to go or something like that, they'll skip this project because they don't think it'll get funded. So they won't even look at it, even though it might, it might be the best looking thing. If they don't think it's going to get funded, they won't look at it. So the best thing to do is to hit a goal or set a goal that you can hit it in a day, and then get to the point where you're 1,000% funded. Look, this guy's 1,000% funded.
Right, like Dan Mendoza,
That's
his goal is lower. He knows he's going to get more. He has
yep.
those different levels.
Look at all the percentages for the campaigns that I run: 1,000%, 1,500%, 500%, 70. I mean, that's the point. Is I set these goals. I talk the creators into setting their goal low, right? I mean, even this one didn't do, but the percentage is high, and what that does is, it's a mind game. So if you're at a comic book show and you have a table, and you have 4 people standing at your table, the people walking by are wondering why there are 4 people around your table. What are you selling that's so good that everybody's stopping to look? And they want to know. So basically, by having your goal, when you hit 100%, 200%, 300%, people that are scrolling through those Kickstarters, they're like, "What? Why is he at 300%? He must have something good." First of all, that book's getting funded. It's going to get created, and there must be a lot of people that believe that he's going to fulfill this project. So I know I'll get my book. Well, let me go check that one out. First step is to get people to look at the project. So 1, the sexy cover, and 2, they have to believe that the book is going to get funded, so that they're going to get their product. So those are the 2 things to get the people into the Kickstarter.
And the thing with Kickstarter compared to Indiegogo and crowdfunder, is if you don't meet your goal, you don't get anything.
No, right,
So
exactly. You
you've
get nothing.
spent 30 days and you're stressing and you're working and you're, doing the social media thing and you're doing the podcast and stuff. And then your project doesn't get funded. It doesn't happen. Whereas with Indiegogo and crowdfunder, okay, maybe you're $50 shy of your goal, or $100 shy of your goal. You're still going to make that book.
That's what I tell folks, when they're trying to decide a goal, and I tell them, I'm like, look, if you set your goal at $3,500, and at the end of 30 days you get to $3,499, but $1 stopped you from getting funded. So you're better off setting your goal at like $750, hitting that goal super quick, and then spending the next 29 days fighting to get the $3,500 you actually wanted. I mean, that goal is just a soft goal. So you tell people that was just a soft goal to make sure that we get funded so that we can create the book, and then you fight for more. And I don't know. It's a catch-22, because some people are like, well, I can't do it if I don't make this money. It's like, well, if you don't get that money, you're not doing it anyway. So, it's, and I like crowdfunder for a couple different reasons. Crowdfunder, 1, I made a couple suggestions, and they implemented one of the big changes that I suggested within a month and a half, and to me that was huge. Kickstarter won't even listen to you. I mean, I can talk till I'm blue in the face, and they're making their money. Crowdfunder wants, they want creators to succeed. They want to grow, and they want to help us do what we need to do. And you can see that by the models that they've come up with. So like their platform models, how you pay for the platform. Kickstarter only has one way to pay them. At the end of the campaign, they take their 5% and their 3.5% for the straight fee credit card transactions. So
And
8.5.
people don't know that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you reached your goal. Well, yeah,
Yep, 8.5% goes to Kickstarter right off the bat. And with Crowdfunder, they have a couple different ways. They have what they call a free model, which basically they ask each backer for a donation. And they have found that most backers will give a donation, even if it's only a couple dollars, right? So that helps. They have a nearly free model. And the way that works is they basically, at the time of your pledge, they basically say, hey, your transaction cost to the creator would be $2.50 or $3.75 or $5.25. Would you like to help your creator out by covering this cost? And they have found that 75 to 80% of the backers cover that cost. Okay, the backers are paying my fee because they're helping me out to
now
begin
they
with.
know.
Right?
Now they're educated.
Yeah, and so they're seeing, okay, well, he has to pay for this transaction. Okay, well, I'm going to help him out. I'm going to cover that. So on the Charms 2 campaign, roughly 80% of the backers have paid that fee. I effectively owe Crowdfunder 1.2%. That's it. And that's huge. So all that money that you see, the $1,200 to $1,300, that's
Mhm.
actually that's actually the money that we're getting. That the shipping does not count in that, and the fees that Crowdfunder has been paid are not counted in that. That's pretty cool. And
when
then they also have the typical.
Doesn't that make you feel good too? Like they believe in you, they believe in your project.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think I think the backers know that. And it just feeds. It feeds you, and makes you in turn want to help the backers as well. So, and then the other thing that I like is that they have a couple different goal models. So you can have a typical where you go 30 days, right? You set a goal and you go 30 days. They also have you don't get paid until after that 30 days. The other one, they have a basically keep it all model. So as soon as someone backs, I get the money. So if they pay via PayPal, then as soon as they make that payment via PayPal, I get my money. I don't wait 2 weeks after the campaign ends, which helps me out if I'm trying to finish the book, right? You just have to be smart because you can't forget that you have to ship the book. So you constantly have to make sure that you're setting aside money for the shipping fees and the printing cost. So you have to be smart, and you have to understand that, yeah, you're getting the money up front, but you still have to print and ship the book. But ideally, if you had your book 100% complete, if you were 100% complete and someone bought the book on the first day of the campaign, you could print and ship that book before the campaign even ended.
Oh, can you?
You could.
Oh,
Because because the backers are paying you. You're getting your money right then. So if I had 10 people, pledge $20, I got $200 on day one. That money goes into my bank account. I could ship those books if I had the books done. So it's kind of, it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of interesting things that enables you to do. Like I said, you just have to be smart because you have the printing cost and the shipping cost in that as well. But I liked, I like that. They also have a model where if you hit your goal, you don't get the money until you hit your goal. And if you hit your goal 15 days in, then you get your money. And, and then after that, you get every backer. So like I said, there's just some benefits to Crowdfunder over Kickstarter. But at the same time, like I said, they're only, 3-4 months old. So they don't have the backers, which is why I'm trying to get creators to go over there to get the backers over there as well, because I think that once the backers go over there, I think it'll be a bigger platform. You don't have to do a survey afterwards, because their shipping address is collected at the time of pledge. You can turn it into a store afterwards. So there's just a lot of benefits besides the lack of backers right now. So, and I'm actually what's interesting, Dan's going to help me out with Charms 2, Dan Mendoza.
What's
So
he gonna
basically,
do?
so basically, what we're doing is that if you back Zombie Tramp 58, which is live on Kickstarter, and then you go to Crowdfunder and you back Charms 2, you will be entered into a drawing to win a Zombie Tramp 58 sketch cover done by Dan Mendoza.
Well, I already
About-
contributed to his Kickstarter.
Yep. So if you
Um,
contribute to Charms 2, then you will be entered into a drawing to win a Dan Mendoza
that's what I'm
ballpoint
doing.
sketch.
That's what I'm doing
So
as we're talking.
we're gonna make that announcement on Dan's Kickstarter as an update, and I hope that it helps my Kickstarter, my crowdfunder, obviously, but the bigger goal is to get backers to go over to crowdfunder. I've actually, if you know the printer Comics Wellspring, which is in Michigan, I've kind of introduced them to crowdfunder because Comics Wellspring does this thing where if you run a crowdfunding campaign, and you put their logo on your campaign for the entirety of your campaign, you get 10% off of your printing job. Okay, which is nice.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to actually get Comics Wellspring to become crowdfunder's preferred printer of choice. So if you run on Crowdfunder and you print with Comics Wellspring, you get 10% off of your printing job.
Well, that
So
would be a nice incentive.
yeah, it would be. It would, it would be beneficial to Comics Wellspring because they'd be getting people to print with them, and it'd be beneficial to Crowdfunder because they'd be getting more creators to go to that site to run their campaign. So there's definitely some mutual benefit there. So I really hope that they're able to work something out between them to make that partnership happen. Zoop is another new crowdfunding platform. It's just it's a different model. They are basically me. They run your crowdfunding platform for you, and then if you want, they can print and ship your books, which is kind of nice for someone that doesn't care about the fulfillment portion. They don't want to know anything about it. They don't want any control. They just want to do their comic and collect some money at the end. But Zoop has the same type of issue. They're new. They don't have as many backers. But there are also a lot of creators out there that want their hands on their own, their project. They want to be able to change graphics and stuff like that mid-campaign. And with Zoop, they have to do everything. They have complete control over the campaign. So it's a little bit different, but it's still interesting.
And
Comics
depends on
Wellspring
your personality. If you're a micromanager where
Yeah.
you want to know that everything was shipped out right,
Exactly.
or if
Yep.
you're like, yeah, I trust them.
Yeah, it's hard. Comics Wellspring also does fulfillment. So if somebody wanted to print with Comics Wellspring and pay them to ship your books, they do that as well. They have their own mailers that are very similar to Gemini mailers, and they charge a certain amount per book.
Oh my God!
Plus shipping.
Flash the front of my credit card on the screen.
I couldn't see what it was, so you're okay. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, of course we believe in the charm story. I think it's fun. It's funny because on Kickstarter, roughly 70% of the people were collectors because they bought more than one book. You can tell when we go to shows and we do comic book shows and sell charms there, 70-80% are moms and teens. So it's cool. We get a lot of positive feedback from the moms, which is awesome. That's what makes Sarah happy.
Well, what's really cool to me is that you are working with your wife. You're including your daughter. It's not only it's a family project, and it's a family story.
It is. Yeah.
But I'm a big, I had somebody who, told me that, comics was a boys club. And so I'm all about supporting female creators.
Yeah, and my wife, my wife is, I call her a huge feminist, but she's not. That's just my way of teasing her. But she wants to make sure that women artists are represented on our covers, which is why we have Bellatrix and we have Heather and Nei and the first issue we had a ton of female artists as well. And so I always look when we go to shows, like we're going to go to Galaxy and GalaxyCon this weekend in Columbus, and that's the big thing we do. We walk around Artist Alley, we look for different cover artists to do work, folks that maybe haven't done a cover before for a comic book, or females that do awesome work, and we really want to support them and get them on a comic book cover. So yeah.
You tell your wife that when you guys do Charms 3, she needs to come on my show. I want to see her face too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she just had that dinner tonight, so she was like, she was like, dang it. She's like, I'm missing one. I'm like, I know. I'm like, this is the only time we could do it though. So.
Well, I really want, you've got 16 more days to go for your campaign. Hope your numbers are going up as we speak. And I really wanted you on before, the end of the campaign, obviously.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Heather.
So somebody says, hey, Heather, and it just says Facebook user. Hey, you. I don't know who you are, but hey.
Yeah, that's one of the things that stinks about StreamYard is if they don't go to StreamYard first and give them permission to use their Facebook name, then you can't really see it. So.
Well, I thank you for coming on. I know that we went over time. We had that issue with hey, Dave Brown.
Hi, Dave.
We had that issue with the Wi-Fi, the internet, how we were going to do this. So I know you've got another show to prep, and hopefully I didn't make you hoarse with all the talking.
Nah, no, you're good. I can talk forever. It's all I do. Sometimes it's bad.
Well, it's different when we talk until 3 a.m. because we're typing in Messenger.
Yeah. No, like I said, I love helping other creators in any way that I can do that. I do it. I mean, I'll help people with just give them ideas, about their crowdfunding stuff, even though I'm not actually setting up their campaign. So it's just does me no good to have the knowledge and not help other people. That's just who I am. I just want to make sure that, if I can help you to be successful in any way, that I'm going to try to do it. So
you're a good guy, Russ. You've got a great heart, and I appreciate you so much because, I don't know if I mean, most people don't know what you've, helped me with. So.
No, I'm happy to do it. Always here.
Well, you remember you're going to be doing those page setups for me.
Yeah. No, I've gotten so used to it now. I have automation tools in Photoshop to help me make it faster.
Do you do it with your eyes closed?
Yeah, no. Maybe.
I'm teasing. So, well, so everybody knows that Charms 2 is on Crowdfunder because we've been discussing it. But if people want to follow you, where else can they find you on social media? So
I'm on Instagram, Russ Cass, Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/groups/Charms Comic and follow join the Charms Comic group. I post updates in there as well. That's pretty much it. But you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I try to post just pinups and art stuff that I work on for art prints and whatnot. So.
Well, you just colored some really nice shit. Excuse my mouth.
Yeah. So Tyler, who said hey earlier today, he did a cover for Rob Wood, Do You Poo cover, and Tyler asked Rob to have me color it, so I did, and it was cool because I don't know if I have a reference image because Tyler did a Shannon Mayer homage, and which was really cool to me that I got to color it because I love Shannon, and So it was really, it actually, I don't know if Tyler knows it or not, but it meant more to me, to actually do than, just coloring any other cover. First thing I did after I was done, and Rob said he loved it. And, and Tyler said it was good. I sent it to Becky and I said, hey, check this out. And Becky was like, I love it. So it was, it was
That's
really
so
cool.
sweet.
But yeah, so I did that, and it was nice to have the reference image to basically, go by to use. So it came out pretty cool.
It did. It did. I've seen the images, and yeah, I want it.
The Pooh dealer.
Well,
ba-
I'm
it
a
was-
big
it was-
teddy
it was a
bear
def-
person, and Winnie the Pooh's always been a big part of our lives and our family.
Yeah,
Especially
I get any Pooh cover that I color. I usually get comp books to sell, and when I go to shows, it does not take a lot of convincing to get people to buy a Pooh book, because people love Winnie the Pooh, and I mean, when you have Winnie the Pooh like mass murdering, the other characters from Hundred Acre Woods, it doesn't take a lot of convincing. People are like, yes, I want Winnie the Pooh killer.
Yeah, that new movie looks pretty scary.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that because there's two Winnie the Poohs. The original Winnie the Pooh is the fuzzy one with no shirt. Disney's version is he's more straight line, not fuzzy, with the red shirt on. So what
And
is
everybody else except for Rue's naked too.
yeah, but public domain Pooh is the fuzzy one with no shirt. So everyone's like, oh, they see the Do You Pooh and they're like, oh, it's public domain now. I'm like, no, this is still parody of the Disney Pooh, not the one that went public domain. So it's definitely interesting.
Well, the copyright for Mickey Mouse is coming up.
Yeah, I think Disney's going to fight for that one though. I don't
But
think they care about
they
it.
already have. They've already had extensions, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. There's a lot of stuff going public domain these days, so.
Well, thanks for joining me. I better let you go because it's almost 7:00 Eastern
Yeah.
Standard Time.
Thanks for having me. I'm gonna go get the kids some dinner.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice between shows, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Make up some corn dogs.
All right. Well, I'll be keeping in touch with you, Russ, and congratulations on Charms 2. And I can't wait to see what happens at the end of your campaign.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Yep.